Hello, I'm Josh Wilkinson and welcome to Chattin, presented by Made.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right, I'm good.
Good. Thank you for joining me today on Zoom again. I just wanted to, well, first of all, for people that are watching, can you introduce yourself, please? Your name and your role and the organisation you work for.
Yeah, so my name's Maya and I'm a Cultural Learning and Participation Officer apprentice at Manchester Museum, where I work on a project called OSH, which stands for Our Shared Cultural Heritage, which works around making places like museums and other heritage spaces more inclusive and more accessible for young people, specifically young people of colour, but just in general for young people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, great. I mean, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in more detail. I mean, I'm thinking about the museum generally. It's what a place to be connected with and to work with. It's like I always remember being a kid visiting Manchester Museum and just being sort of like always in awe of it, and thinking about night at the museum and thinking what goes down when it's the evening, because of course that is a real life story. It's a real happening in Manchester. But I guess mainly, I'll ask a little bit about how you got into that role, and what your journey has been, I guess, from, as well, I suppose, from education to doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I was actually part of the batch that couldn't finish high school because of the pandemic. So I never got to do my GCSEs and I got given the grades that I got given. And then I started college and I actually had like a career plan in mind. Like I was gonna initially go into pediatric nursing, but college life was just not for me. And then on the last day of applications for this apprenticeship, someone actually sent it to my mum, and thought Maya might be interested in this. And I'd been looking at apprenticeships anyway, but this just felt really perfect and very weirdly timed. So literally last minute was typing it up, doing it, sent it. And for that week, waiting to see if I'd been successful in getting an interview or not was painful. But here I am, I got it. And yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was very.
It's one of those things, isn't it, I guess, where you have to kind of weigh up whether you're the right person or not for it when you see any call out, I guess. And when it comes to that, I mean, especially when it's something that is like, I don't know, I suppose it was this sort of like one of the first stepping stones out of education, then doing something that was a role like this, but also, I guess, an apprenticeship in its form. This is the first thing that you've gone into, is that right?
Yeah, so basically I was at college for a few months and then I left in April and started the apprenticeship in May. So literally was just like a break from the world after like not even finishing high school and then jumping in the working world off the back of starting college. But yeah, very cool, very weird, very fitting to me, I think.
Well, so go on then. So you said that somebody sent it to your mum saying, "Oh, I might be interested in this." Why? What was that? Have you always been interested in museums, or what was the interest?
I think it was like it was targeted towards South Asian young diaspora, and it being with OSH because we had heard of OSH before previously, and just I think it was just I don't know, it's really weird, like she just thought of me and sent it to my mum on the last day of applications. But
that's good. It's good when you've got a support network around you helping you out like that. That's happened
definitely.
Yeah, that's happened a lot to me, where family have like sent me stuff because they know I do acting and stuff, but then also sometimes family just send me like a link to like, you can be an extra in Peaky Blinders or something, and I'm like, oh, maybe not today. That's good to know, isn't it? I mean, so from what you knew already and from what you then got thrown into, I guess, what was the sort of role that you, well, I suppose not the role that you thought you were going into, because that is the role you're doing, but when you had to read up about it and check it out, I imagine that you had an idea of what it was going to be before you went into it. What kind of things was you really nervous for anything specifically, or was there some things that were you just kind of like, I'm just going to jump into it?
I think it was both, because I was so ready for like something like this, because it is something I'm quite interested in terms of like culture and also young people and kind of having a space. But also in the same breath, I was a bit like, I'm gonna be probably the youngest employee at Manchester Museum. Like, I have a staff badge, and I'm like, oh, like it was a little bit at first, I'd say imposter syndrome, and kind of just like couldn't believe it. But I think you realize that it is your space and you have every right to be there as much as anyone else.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really important as well for people that are engaging with the work that you're doing as well, is to sort of for you to be at the heart of it, but also really seemingly passionate about it as well. So what did you I suppose, when you look at this role now and what you do, I mean, do you work, is it sort of set days that you do, or?
Yeah, so I work 3 days a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm in the museum. And because obviously it's an apprenticeship, there's
Yeah.
the college side. So I have a Tuesday set aside for like my college work and kind of getting together things for my portfolio. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
no, well, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask about like a day to day, and I suppose you've got quite different day to days, because you've got day to days working, doing the apprenticeship, and then you've got also the, I suppose, the college side where you've got to then, like you say, put it all down on paper as well and make it in. But what do those 2 days? What do they look like day to day?
So I'd say like normal day-to-day museum. So, kind of checking emails, like when I get into the museum, checking emails, talking to staff if I've not seen them, like if over the weekend, just catching up. We actually have another cultural learning and participation officer apprentice, Hawa, who's amazing and basically my life mentor because I'm the youngest, and so she's older than me. And we also have the OSH coordinator, Sadia, and my manager, Baz. And so kind of our desks are basically all opposite each other. So kind of we talk about the projects that we're working on at the moment, if we need to have a meeting, different things that we're working on at that point. I'll be in contact with young people that I might be doing projects with, or maybe even doing things like updating the social media, promoting things, uploading things to the social media, looking at different things, what I can do for a new project or a new event that I want to host. For example, what I might want to do for South Asian Heritage Month. And then for a college day, it's like making sure everything's put together and put onto the online portfolio and kind of evidence and is there, and like, finishing bits of work. But yeah.
Yeah, and then and I suppose what's interesting for me is that balance with the college side as well and stuff, like you say. So when you say about a portfolio, I mean, I imagine that it's just a matter of capturing all the great stuff you're doing at the museum, and then using that to then help you secure other roles in the future. Is that right?
Yeah, so essentially it's just like kind of putting things together and evidencing it for the portfolio, and then it goes towards getting a, what's it called, I think a diploma at the end. Yeah. And kind of getting the official thing, but there's numerous things involved in that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, generally for you as a learner, do you get like, was an apprenticeship always a clear thing you were going to do? Or because I mean, I did a BTEC with my college course, but like I didn't go down an apprenticeship route. I didn't go down a full on like like A-level route or like exam route. It was very practical. I mean,
Yeah.
is that did this just come about at the right time, or was you always kind of set that you wanted to do something practical like an apprenticeship?
Do you know what? I think it was the lockdown that really kind of made me think about things and reassess stuff, because whilst in the lockdown and also just before it, it was applying for college and kind of what I wanted to do at college. And originally my plan being so different to what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I think I spent a lot of time researching what I wanted to do previously. And then I kind of just things just fell into place and I got to this stage. But I think going to college, because I still started college, I think going to college, I was doing a BTEC and 2 A-levels, and going to college and doing things, I kind of realized this isn't for me. Like a typical educational path route is not for me at all. And I think practical work life really fits me more, and doing things. So I don't know, I think just the puzzles fell
Yeah,
pieces
fell together. Yeah,
yeah.
it sounds that way. I think, well, it's interesting for everyone, isn't it? I mean, you get there's certain paths that you get shown, don't you, when you're at school or when you're going for education, and it's not necessarily that these ones, that like the similar one that you've gone through is necessarily on show from the beginning, but they are there. And I think that there's a similar thing as well. When I came to picking university, I was kind of checking everything out, and I was just like, I'm going to take a year out and just kind of see. And then I never ended up going to university, although it was told to me throughout college, you know, that it was the thing to do. But I guess it just works for the individual, doesn't it? There's no set journey for one, you know, for everyone. But what I find interesting then, so tell me a little bit about. Do you say it's called OSH?
Yeah.
Yeah? Tell me a little bit about what does that stand for again? Remind me, and also.
OSH stands for Our Shared Cultural Heritage.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And so you'd heard about it a bit before you started working on it, but also, yeah, give me again a bit of an overview of the work that you're doing, more specifically, if it's project wise or.
So OSH, Our Shared Cultural Heritage, focuses on making heritage spaces and museum spaces more inclusive and accessible to young people, specifically young people of colour who previously did not have, you know, a connection with these places or even a place, like, you know, and didn't feel comfortable. And so kind of different things that OSH have done, even within the museum itself, is on every single recruitment panel for jobs at the museum, whether that be a curator or, you know, even a visitor, a member of the visitor team, there will always be a young person, on the recruitment panel,
Right.
to get a young person's voice and them involved, because at the end of the day, they, you know, that museum is going to be theirs to see and visit and be part of, and kind of having an involvement in that is a massive thing. There's just like loads of different ways that OSH has affected the museum, but also OSH has affected so many young people. So currently we're doing some social action projects. It's the first kind of like, it's almost like a trial for social action projects. So we had young people apply with their ideas, and they were applying for a pot of funding, and from that we also we recruited 2 social action interns who themselves are young people as well. And so through that, so for example, one of the social action projects that myself and one of the interns are working on is one around beauty standards and South Asian beauty standards. That project is a massive thing for myself, even personally, as it's about beauty standards and kind of what young people's experiences have been, whether that be culturally and, you know, just like kind of how it's affected them. And by giving a space that's safe to even be able to talk about something like that is something I previously wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, like what you're saying. I mean, it's exactly that, giving a space to those things, and then allowing, you know, having the young people see that there's been a space made for those discussions in whatever way they are, is very impactful, isn't it? Very important, because it shows, for one, that somebody is listening, at least trying to listen, trying to make change. And especially from a venue or an organisation like Manchester Museum, that, you know, has been around for a long time, and also, you know, to see that they're doing work like that is massively impactful, isn't it? And also, I think that the way in which it's being done with yourself and that team that you were talking about, it seems like a good way to go. Instead of trying and having young people on the panel, I think is a massive thing with that. I mean, having young people help make the decisions is almost like, well, yeah, if we're going to engage young people, let's ask them what they want and what to do, instead of just being like, that's what we're doing for them. So that makes a lot of sense. And I was going to say as well, I mean, you talk a lot about your journey and like the work that you're doing, which sounds fantastic. If you were to be thrown back now into school, into like into the hall and there's assembly or whatever, and you had to kind of give a bit of I don't know, I suppose advice or a little bit of wisdom or something you wish you would have maybe heard back then, what would it be? What would you say?
Ooh, so much stuff, so much. I think it would just be to kind of trust my own gut and my own instinct, and make sure I'm doing what I want to do. and not what someone else expects me to do, or not what the education system expects me to do. Kind of, you know, little things like knowing there are other paths into different spaces and places other than your standard go to uni, get a degree. Yeah,
and with that in mind, I mean, if I was a young person thinking, oh, there is other paths, that's great. So I guess is there anything that's become available for you that you've noticed since that you can find these opportunities? Like, for example, is it a matter of following an arts organisation on social media and seeing what the opportunities are, or hiring your family to highlight what apprenticeships are free, or friends?
I think I would say, like, if there's an organisation that you are interested in or is doing work that you really admire and want to be part of, I would say follow, because we've got a lot of young people that just from following OSH and also being a part of the OSH Young People's Collective, which is a collective set up by our coordinator, Dr. Sadi Habib, who, by the way, is absolutely amazing. And if anyone, you know, if you need to do another one of these, you need to get her on it, because we literally, at any opportunity, sing her praises always and forever. But so we have a Telegram group where she will actually send different opportunities that she thinks might be interesting, or, you know, might be really what's the word, it might just be really good for someone in the collective, or she knows that it's something we're interested in. And also signing up for like different things. Like, I myself haven't signed up for much, but I get advice from other people, like things like signing up to the arts and heritage side of The Guardian, like getting notifications on jobs, little things like following different accounts, like following Royal Exchange, even following OSH ourselves, kind of, because for the social action intern roles, they were actually people that were already kind of known to us that had seen the opportunity and applied. So I think it's just finding like almost a base of places to kind of tap into almost.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like making sure that you're looking at and being aware of all the different organizations, or the organization you want to maybe work with in the future, and just keeping up to date with what they're doing, so that you can have your finger on the pulse and be up to date for if there is any opportunities. Yeah, I think fantastic. I mean, it's really interesting to hear your specific route into like the role that you're doing, and it sounds like you're really enjoying it as well, which is a really important part. And I suppose what I was going to ask a question of, if you've got any projects coming up that you're really excited about or that you're working on at the minute, but also I'm interested just generally if you've got an example of a project you've done since being part of the role that you're doing and the apprenticeship. What project stood out, and what projects are you looking forward to, I guess?
Oh, there's a lot. I think in terms of a project we've done, what comes to mind? I'm just like thinking.
I know, I bet there's loads. It's like you gotta try and choose. You gotta choose which one.
Yeah. I'd say so. As part of South Asian Heritage Month last year, we did like a bunch of workshops that we ran, and so one of them was actually facilitated by one of the young people, and it was a poetry workshop. It was called Belonging, Space and Place, I think. And kind of that, I think, like, because I was involved in it a little bit in terms of organizing and getting things together, but obviously wasn't the main person facilitating. I attended it both as someone who was helping out, but also as someone who was attending it as an attendee myself. And I think that was really cool, because it was really nice to have a safe space, but also it was intertwined with something I also find comfort in and do myself for fun, poetry. And so I think, the mix of like doing stuff related to my work, as well as doing something related to something I do out of work, which has now actually become intertwined with my work, was really fun and cathartic. And I think that one really hit me a lot, because it really made me like go to town and just write loads.
Anything that's exciting that's coming up or that you're working on right now?
Yes. So right now myself and my manager and Sadia and Howard, the other apprentice, we actually went on a trip to Pakistan
Oh, wow.
a month or two ago. I've lost track of time, but so we actually had the chance to go on an international trip because we currently have a partnership with Karachi University, and we are working on a project, and it's basically going to be that we're creating like a food anthology that's going to consist of recipes, of spoken word, art, just loads of different things. Like we're going to have like QR codes, and you know, you can watch videos and kind of that kind of thing. So we're working on that at the moment.
That sounds cool. That sounds interesting. It sounds really creative, that.
Yes, very exciting, very fun, very cool. Yeah.
That's something that's being developed now, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Oh, see, there you go. And so you've got plenty of stuff to keep you busy and to work.
Yeah.
What's really nice as well is that you're like you said, you're able to bring in those hobbies as well, and like the spoken word side, if that's something you're interested in doing, and you're able to bring that in. It sounds like really that the apprenticeship you've got is kind of molded to you and what you want to do at this stage, which is really great, actually.
Yeah. Literally, it feels that way because like Osh have a blog, and so I wrote a piece for the blog, and I literally just titled it Identity, and kind of it just explored the way that Osh has helped me develop both professionally as well as personally. And it's just, I am extremely grateful to the extent, like, I don't think anyone could ever understand how incredibly grateful I am for such a safe space like Osh, and also this job and what it's given me. And I would just say, I just want to say, like, to anybody that's watching, if you see an opportunity and you feel like doubtful about it, I think just kind of try and get over that and just do it, because it could be the best decision of your life. But also in the same breath, things like rejections happen, and that's what leads you to get an what's the word? It's like, it doesn't matter how many rejections you'll get, because at one point you will get that chance.
Yeah, and it will ultimately lead, well, you'd hope that it'd ultimately lead to the success that you want. If you, I guess that's it. You get the knock, you get the knocks of the rejections, and it does really put you down, doesn't it? But I think that you've got to try and, it's difficult, but you've got to try and find the positives in that, in the sense that you've maybe got to just, if you have an interview and you get rejected, then ask for feedback from the interview maybe. And sometimes it is just a numbers game, isn't it? Where like they can only give it to one person, and it's a real tough competition. But it sounds great, the role that you're doing currently, and the fact you're able to grow in it. But also I think it is just, I know they always say this, and I get this a lot, but you know, when people say, oh, you're just such an inspiration to other young people, you know, and sometimes it's a bit like, oh, but I really do think from what you've said, you really do stand as a great inspiration to other young people. And I really hope that your story and journey really does like resonate with people watching it, because it's one of those things, if you sort of set your goals and you're able to really see where you want to be, then everything can contribute to that. Every little decision that you make can contribute to that. And you also get to go on trips to Pakistan and stuff. I mean, it sounds pretty cool to me. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much for talking to me. I could speak to you for hours. But thanks so much for sharing your journey and the different things that you're doing.
Thank you.